Nuggets take care of business versus the Rockets. So they're the 4 seed. They're going to host the Los Angeles Clippers. No Wolves. So, whew, on that one. We'll break down the series. We'll talk about the value of getting the 4 seed and some of the drawbacks. We'll talk about this being the most memorable regular season in recent memory outside of, when they won the title, Ryan. And we'll talk about the game versus the Rockets. Ryan will, because I was paying attention to the games that mattered. On Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, being with us Monday through Friday, being an everyday or hanging out with us, whether you're over at Apple Podcasts, where you can give us a 5-star review, youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets. We do appreciate you guys joining us and being part of our community. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I've been covering the NBA for 17 years and the Denver Nuggets for 13. His name's Ryan Blackburn. He's the senior NBA writer at Mile High Sports. You can catch him on the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. He's been covering the NBA for since he got out of puberty 6 years ago.
I was going to make the joke that I've been alive for 17 years. Come on.
Alive for 17. That's a much better one. That's a much better one. Today's show, we'll talk about the series versus the Clippers. We'll get into our first thoughts on that. We'll talk about this being such a memorable regular season for probably the worst of all reasons. And we'll talk about the 4 seed being good, but we'll start with this. So I kind of joked up front. I had the Rockets game on.
Good.
And it was kind of like what I expected, which is, well, I'll give my thoughts. Ryan, give me your kind of breakdown of what you saw in the game versus the Rockets as the Nuggets do blow out Houston to secure the 4 seed.
All right, well, I am going to take a turn being positive, Matt. I thought the Nuggets were incredibly serious in this one. I thought it was an incredibly professional win. First half, they early and often established themselves as, hey, we can play good defense. We can play consistently on both ends of the floor. Didn't even need great shot making from Jamal Murray. They got it late in the first half from Michael Porter Jr., and that was nice to see. But just overall, this was the game where I felt the Nuggets were most connected on both ends of the floor, especially of these last 3, where they had to kind of work through some things. They really had to hone down on the game plan. Houston is not as difficult of an offense to game plan for as some, so that was really helpful. But just in general, their defense is great, especially when they try. So the fact that Denver was as successful as they were in terms of generating great shots on every single possession, I thought was really, really notable. I thought that Russell Westbrook did a great job of leading the second unit. He basically carried them on his back in some ways because the lineup that David Adelman threw out there was not super awesome. But just in general, it was a really, really impressive performance from Denver and a serious win, a serious opportunity for them. And in the third quarter, when when the Rockets effectively were like, okay, starters are back out there, but only in body, not in mind. They definitely let go of the rope in that situation, and the Nuggets just took off, leading by 30 at the end of 3 quarters when the Rockets played a normal rotation. That to me is notable. I don't care how hard they were playing. This is just good process from the Nuggets.
Okay. So I don't think it was bad process from the Nuggets. I'm not here to complain about it. How can you complain about it? They did the thing. And that's really good. So I think it's right and good that the Nuggets came into this game with all the reason to win, and they went out and they took it. They took it seriously. They didn't ease into the game. They weren't too cool for school, and they absolutely put the hammer down. They also had to.
Yeah.
The Denver Nuggets had 9 turnovers for 12 points off of turnovers allowed by the Houston Rockets. That to me is probably an indicator of more about Houston. Denver had 29 fast break points. The Rockets had 12. What I would tell you is my sense for this, the first quarter, I was like, I think Ime was like, hey, I don't want you guys having a week and a half off. We're going to play starters. We're going to have one more warm up just so you're not in that far out of game shape. I think if they had taken an early lead, then I think Houston probably puts they put their pedal to the floor and try to win it. I think they came into this game as like, let's see how vulnerable Denver is. And when Denver came out and was like, we are winning this game, Houston was like, okay, all right. Which is not to say that like it's a bad win. It wasn't. It was a necessary win. Like you had to win this game. You had to win this game. Houston had nothing to play for. Denver had everything to play for, and they got the job done and they did it well. It's not that I think that Houston let them have it. I think Denver took it from them. I also don't consider this to be like they took Houston's best punch and then routed them. Like, no, like they got a half effort from a Houston team that I think was like, yeah, we're going to play starters to make sure that everybody's not like way out of game shape. But like, if you guys really want it, that's fine.
And maybe that's reasonable. Maybe that's a situation where, like, look, they were going through what I thought were pretty reasonable rotations that they were trying to get to in a playoff environment. Maybe that's all this was. But what I saw was a Nikola Jokic that was extremely engaged. I saw an Aaron Gordon and a Christian Brown who both did their jobs to a T, especially on the defensive end of the floor.
Yep.
Christian was fantastic against Jalen Green, and Aaron Gordon was making plays above the square on the defensive end of the floor. So we can quibble about what it is, but I do think that it's notable to me that Denver was able to reach that level, because how often have we seen that level with this group, especially post All-Star break?
Hey, I'm not going to complain about you being positive. We need more of it from you. We can't have you being Eeyore and me being the skeptic. That's not good radio. So I think it's much better when you think that they play well and want to stick up for the guys. So Nuggets wrap the regular season. They do win 50. They've won 50 games, 7 years in a row? Or 50 win pace 7 years in a row?
Yeah, outside of the 2021-22 season. And like, because that one was without Murray and Porter.
Right.
And actually, like, even the two before that, I'm pretty sure that they didn't get to 50 either, but those were 50 win pace seasons. But yeah, this one, kind of notable how we've had all these criticisms, how you get the coach and the GM fired because of lack of effort and like consistency and communication. And just overall, like, it felt like the sky was falling a week ago, and it's amazing what winning will do. And just 3 straight wins in the situations where you kind of have to get them, and you got it done. So it doesn't clearly does not take away from what happened, but they are the 4 seed in a very tough Western Conference. And I do think that is notable, despite the fact, like, because they could have been in a situation where they're facing a team like the Clippers or the Warriors, and like that, and they're fighting for the play-in at that point.
Up next, let's talk about the season as a whole, because I want to quibble with you a little bit more on that, and then we'll get to the Clippers series, which everybody in the chat is talking about. We got to do more Clippers talk here, because the chat wants to go ahead and get started on playoff talk. We'll talk about that up next on Locked On Nuggets. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. You can share that in your household. If your partner and you share expenses, you can help track those kind of things. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. So it's not just short-term. It's not just the immediate stuff, but it's your long-term as well. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Monday. No jinx. We'd never jinx anyone. That's not a thing that we would do. Okay. So, like, this has been the struggle all year long. And, like, I know all the dysfunction. I reported on it. You reported on it. We reported on it. We talked about it all year. It was funny going on the Zach Lowe show on The Ringer, because it was like, he mentioned mentioning the strife between Malone and Booth, and everyone making a big deal out of it. And he was like, "You guys have been talking about this for like ever." I was like, "Yeah, like everyone here has been like, yeah, we know."
Open secret.
50 wins and the 4 seed in a Western Conference that everyone talks about as being extremely brutal. They beat out the Clippers by virtue of a tiebreaker. Actually, they beat them by a game. They beat out. No, they did. They did beat them by tiebreaker. They're both a 50. They beat out the Wolves. They beat out the Warriors. Like, they beat out all these teams. The Lakers, the Rockets, and the Thunder are the only Western Conference teams. So, like, in the context of most NBA fans, was this a bad season?
Bad is relative because it's not over. In terms of regular seasons, I would say that, yeah, like, you get your coach and your GM fired and it's a bad season. Like, just objectively, you're putting yourself into a situation that you felt like you had to do that. You felt like you had to turn the momentum as much as you needed to. I've been talking about how Denver's had an inability to win against top level talent. Hey, lo and behold, last game of the season, game 82, you win against the 2 seed in the Western Conference. And so, hey, whoop-de-doo. But I think that when Denver has consistently, especially in the second half of the year, run up against teams that you believe are going to be a challenge for them, and the fact that they have consistently faltered in those situations, it has felt like there's an artificial kind of glass ceiling being put onto them in terms of, okay, yeah, it was really nice when you guys were a contender back in 2023 and you held on for dear life in 2024, but now it's really hard in 2025. And especially, as Steve says there, expectations are sort of begetting some of these question marks and what it actually has meant for this season.
I think one of the fundamental disagreements between you and I, because you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago off air, is for you, you're kind of like, when I'm like, they won 50 games, and you're like, yeah. And like, that's a big deal for me. It's hard to win 50. And if you want proof of it, do you know that 70% of NBA preseason win totals over 50 go under? 70%. It's hard to win 50, Ryan. I understand that, like, yes, the Nuggets have moved past that point, but I do think there's a difference between the expectations are higher than 50, but what happens there is, like, 50 becomes nothing. It becomes like, well, that's not hard to do. And it's like, no, winning 50 games is hard in the NBA. Like, that's a hard thing to do.
I don't disagree. Here would be my rebuttal. We have spent a lot of this year comparing Nikola Jokic's season all time to Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and basically pick your star. And so often in those situations, and especially when, like, the world tells you that you have the best player, you should be a contender. You should be in the thick of it. And you see all of these signs as a franchise and as a team and as a fan base where your team is not delivering at the level that you would expect when you have somebody of that nature. Naturally, something is going to pull you away from that. And I have seen it all year, whether it's the disconnection between kind of the core four and not really being able to play well at the same time, whether it's the injuries, whether it's the bench not really filling in to the degree that it needs to be, whether it's Christian Brown adjusting to a starting role, whether it's Russell Westbrook adjusting to his different roles throughout the season. There's just a lot of things that have pulled Denver away from saying, oh yeah, they can do it. Because I don't know if I've ever, and like, I might be the wrong person to answer this question. Have you ever felt like, oh yeah, they can do it this year?
There were times, not now, but there were times. There were times when I thought, yeah, I still think that they can. I think mostly just because I was underwhelmed by the West. And it's not that they're bad, just like I don't consider, I still don't. Do I think the Lakers are winning the West for a number of reasons, but like, do I think that they're unbeatable? No. Do I think the Thunder are unbeatable? No. Are they a level above Denver? For sure. Is it like this massive, incomprehensible gap? No. I think that's kind of the thing, is just like Denver's strengths really are very strong. And Denver's weaknesses have been, the problem is like their floor is non-existent. And that to me is like the issue, is like it's not their ceiling, it's their floor. And playoffs oftentimes are about your ceiling. And so I think at times I held out a little bit more optimism than you did. I have to be realistic at this point, but I do think that that to me is kind of the difference. Is like, yeah, I think it was not. I don't think that they are like light years away, the way I think you do.
Yeah, I guess I always, when I see a championship team, like I think about the 2023 team and how that felt during the year. And they started off pretty slow, but once they got into their rhythm, once Jamal Murray hit that shot in Portland, the team basically turned into the best team in the NBA statistically for a chunk of 40 games. And that was what I needed to see. And the feeling that kind of had was the consistent greatness, the delivering of like on offense and defense, just doing everything and everybody kind of filling their role and sacrificing and doing what they were asked to do, no matter what the circumstance was. And we haven't seen that this year to the degree that we need to. And certainly to the degree that I have needed to be like, oh yeah, they can win a championship, because I know what it looks like. We both know what it looks like, and we haven't seen it to that degree.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I think that's like a big part of it too, is like I never looked at it as like the Nuggets can become the favorite, where you're like, oh, it's going to be Denver, because that's what 2023 was. Like by January we were like, they're going to do it. Like this is happening.
Yeah.
And I never thought it was going to be like that this year. I never thought. I was like, I think there's been so many playoff runs where I've been like, so many championship runs that I have said, yeah, I don't think that they're good enough. And then like that team just winds up there. They just wind up there. Now the difference really is kind of like, has a good kind of thing. As I always say, like, guess what? You have to be a top 3 seed. You just have to. Two teams, one in 1969, have won the title as more than a 3 seed. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. And the other stat that we've talked about is the winning games versus teams that are above 500. Like, it's just not something that they have achieved to the degree that they need to when matching up against like competition, competition that they're going to be facing in this situation. So I don't think that it's going to happen.
No,
but I'm open to the possibility that over the course of this last week, the team has received some sort of wake-up call that allows them to play with more urgency than they would have showed going into this thing. And maybe that propels them further than it would have.
So, yeah, I think part of being a sports fan, I think, is getting to believe in times like this. Like, I think that's one of the cool things about sports, is you get to be like, sure, we haven't defended all year. Sure, the teams look like it's hated itself for most of the year. Sure, Michael Porter Jr. is a walking target. Sure, Aaron and Jamal are pretty banged up. But you know what? Like, don't let us win one, right? Like, don't let us win a series. Don't let us get started.
Yeah.
And you get to have that. I think it's good to have that hope and belief, and to be like, hey, we got rid of the problem. We got rid of the things that were causing the tension and the unhappiness. The team is happier. The vibes are better. Vibes are important. And now they're going to go. Another good reason to believe it is that apparently the universe bends towards Adam Mares, not only with Jokic, but with Jalen Pickett and Michael Malone. Like, I don't know how, but like, it just like Mares is a warlock. So, carry that energy forward. Okay, up next, we'll get into the Clippers matchup. We'll start breaking it down. We're going to do a lot on that this week, so there's a lot more to come, but we'll give our first thoughts about the series and what we're concerned about, what we're confident in. We'll do that coming up next on Locked On Nuggets. This is going to be 3 ads, Ryan.
Ooh.
Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So you can pick more on Nikola Jokic rebounds and more on Nate McKinnon points, like all these types of things that you can get in on. You can get in on those across sport to do it. You can set up your lineup in under 60 seconds, and they run cool promos like Taco Tuesday where they discount player projections up to 25% for even more value, and payoffs are fast, safe, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. We're brought to you today by WayFair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, WayFair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, or outdoor lighting, WayFair has quality products for every budget. That indoor lighting is really good. I've got some really great lamps I got WayFair. I think lighting is so important in your rooms, and you'll be able to find the best at WayFair. WayFair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's WayFair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. Finally, we're brought to you today by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. You got to love FanDuel for having the series prices up. Nuggets are a big favorite versus the Clippers, so if you want to emotionally hedge, you can do that, or you can back the guys to get it done. How about Nikola Jokic for Western Conference Finals MVP? Lots of opportunities. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. I completely misread our ad calendar to start the show.
You know what? It's fine because I had it fresh and I was like, okay, Monarch Money here. And then they updated the week.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay. So let's talk about the Clipper series. So look, Kawhi Leonard is going to get his the same way that Nikola Jokic is going to get his. If you got into a lab and you built the ideal defender for Nikola Jokic, you would have Rudy Gobert. If you had the second kind of model, you would probably try and build Ivica Zubac. Yep. Big, strong, powerful, able to defends without fouling for the most part. If you got into a lab and you built a defender to guard Kawhi Leonard, I would build Aaron Gordon. This is I love this matchup for AG. I love it. I absolutely love it. Now Kawhi's going to hit mid-range jumpers and he's going to hit a lot of shots because Kawhi Leonard is awesome and he's a robot. Like he's a cyborg, and that's cool. One thing is that Kawhi is too strong for guards and too quick for bigs. And that's why AG being right in the middle is perfect. He's able to take away space without fouling. Now fouls are going to be a problem that he's going to have to watch pretty significantly, but the athleticism that Aaron Gordon is able to bring to that matchup makes him an ideal kind of matchup with Kawhi Leonard, I think, conceptually. The big question, I think, is going to be Chris Dunn versus Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
But I do not look at Chris Dunn like a Jaden McDaniels or like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Right.
He is more slight. He's very good, but he's more slight, and you can peel him effectively with screens, which means that if Jamal's able to show the kind of burst that he's had over the last 3 months, and he's still shown in these last 2 games since coming back, I actually think that this is this is not the Wolves matchup to me at all. The Clippers have an elite defense. Number 2, I do not view them in the same category as the Wolves in terms of how they defend, Ryan.
And especially how they defend the Nuggets. Like we think about the Wolves and how they were constructed to match up with a team like Denver, where you have Anthony Edwards, who's a bigger body than somebody like Chris Dunn, so much athleticism, so much like competitive want to and fire. Chris Dunn is an athletic player, but he's also more quick and he's long as opposed but not like tall. He's just very long and has those long, it's like a 6'10" wingspan or something like that on a guy who's 6'3". And then Zubac, who is great, is just not Rudy Gobert in terms of his level of defense. And now he's had a fantastic defensive season. I do not want to take anything away from Zubac. And if people want to vote him for DPOY, I would not really argue that this year. But what I will say is that just in general, this feels like a matchup where Denver can get those guys in rotation a little bit more and a guy like Gordon will be able to duck behind the defense a little bit, get some dunker spot options. Michael Porter Jr. will be able to get some threes. And Christian Braun, we're going to see what Christian Braun looks like in this series. This is going to be the first real test for Christian Braun this season. He's going to have to match up with one of James Harden or Norman Powell. He's going to have to switch on to Kawhi Leonard, and they're going to dare him a lot in these situations to just be the guy that makes the play. And while I do have faith in him that he can do that, I do think that this will be like, it wouldn't surprise me if Christian Braun and Russell Westbrook kind of share minutes at that spot next to the core four.
I think Christian Braun,
or they go smaller and Russ plays in place of Michael Porter Jr.
Oof. We'll get to the Russ thing. I'll say this, that like it is not possible. I would feel a lot better if they were able to put Mike on the bench and start Peyton. I would just feel a lot better about the series, because giving Harden a target is just tough, man. Mike sometimes does pretty okay in isolation coverage. The problem is, like, Harden is so good at drawing fouls, like he'll just get Mike in foul trouble, because when Mike gets beat, he just kind of fouls him to not allow the layup, and he can't do that. That's like, Harden will do that to you over and over again. Like, Harden knows how to pick at scabs, man. Like, that's what he does. Like, he finds your weakness and he stabs you right there in whatever hole in your armor that you have. He's extremely disciplined with that, because he's the guy that I think that looks at basketball from a strategic, like, all right, how can I pick this apart perspective? Kawhi very much is just like, board man, get paid. I'm going to get to my spot. I'm just going to rise up and shoot. I'm going to make it because I'm Kawhi. That's it.
He's fantastic, man. And there's a lot of reasons, I think, to believe that this is a series that can go deep. The Clippers are going to have shot-making games from all three of Kawhi, James Harden, and Norman Powell, guys that Denver, both in the past and present, have not been able to stop that often. If you guys remember, Denver has not faced Kawhi Leonard at all this season. So we don't know what it actually looks like. Obviously, got a lot of theory of the practice in terms of how Kawhi matches up with Aaron Gordon and the Nuggets. I do think that a guy like Michael Porter, better in isolation against a guy like Kawhi than he would be guarding James Harden and Norman Powell on pick and rolls and in situations where he has to stay attached to a ball handler. So I'm curious to see how they handle that. But like, if it's going to come down to Kawhi hunting Michael Porter or Jamal Murray in isolation, and then James Harden doing the same thing, you might be right that Denver might be better they might be better suited getting guys like Peyton Watson and Russell Westbrook on the floor to take away defensive targets. That to me is a very notable point for this kind of series because of who they are facing.
Playoff schedule is out. Chat, let me know about it. The Denver Nuggets will face the Los Angeles Clippers on Saturday at 1:30 Mountain Time. So they're getting a matinee spot. So why is that? What are you crying about? What?
Because I know that they are not, like, this is going to be the NBA TV series for.
No, okay. I just want to tell you, like, that's a really good time slot. That is the warm up for the Saturday main event game. Like, the Saturday night primetime is the big one with the Lakers, right, on ABC. But like, Saturday slots in general, you had to have the Saturday slots because they're putting the 7 and 8s on Sunday. But like, that is not a bad slot. The one that you don't want is actually the game after you, because that's the dinner slot. That's the bad one. The worst slot for television, like ratings and visibility, is the game where they're like, hey, everybody can go get dinner because you're not going to want to watch this. Like the West, it'll probably be Oklahoma City versus somebody on Sunday. That will probably, unless it's Steph. If it's Steph, they'll move it up. But like, it's going to be Houston for sure. No, because that's Houston Warriors. Yeah, OKC versus Grizzlies will definitely be in that Sunday go get dinner slot. Detroit, New York is like, it's 6 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Mountain. That's dinner hour, right? This was the better one. You get like the Saturday afternoon. You're not the opener, so you're not like the first game of the weekend that they throw teams into. This is not a bad slot. Now, It is 12:30 Pacific time, so that's interesting, and the Nuggets have
Yeah.
not played well in matinee games, so that's not great, but something to kind of like to consider there. Some other things, I think Christian Brown is going to have a huge impact on this series offensively. So whether it's Norman Powell or James Harden, one of them is going to have to guard him because the other one is going to have to guard. I don't know where they're going to put Kawhi. Like, does Kawhi guard Aaron Gordon?
I think Kawhi will guard Gordon. I think that obviously Chris Dunn will guard Jamal. They'll have Harden guard Christian Brown, and they'll have Norman Powell guard Porter.
So in that, Christian's going to get every cut he wants.
Okay.
Every cut he wants. Even if Harden is there, Christian will get the edge on him every single time. If they can space the floor effectively, and the big part of this is like, Aaron has shot the lights out this year. He's going to have to hit those in the playoffs. Like, he's just going to have to. And if he doesn't, the Nuggets are going home. My take on the Clippers is the defense is legit, but it's not terrifying in the way that OKC's or Minnesota's is. It's very, 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 very good. It's just not as physically intimidating and imposing and like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They don't fly around. They're just extremely disciplined and super strong.
Do you have an update, by the way, on Nick Batum? Because I know that he hurt himself on Friday. Because he's a guy that I think would be essential in a series like this, in a highly cerebral series, a player who's very versatile, somebody that they can go to. If they can't go to him, then I feel a lot better about Denver's bench in this series, because Batum would be a guy that I think could flip a game.
No update on him.
Probably not a good sign for the Clippers, if that's
we'll
the
see.
case.
They might be just saving him. That's also the possibility. We'll just kind of have to react to it as it comes. We'll get more stuff here later. Poppin says Clippers defense is legit. I'm not saying it's not legit. It's legit.
Yeah.
But there's a level of difference between like the way that OKC and Minnesota absolutely tear you to pieces and the Clippers, who are just fundamentally sound. Like, they're just extremely fundamentally sound. They can test everything. The interesting question is going to be about the offense, right? Because when you get into the Clippers offense, that's their weak point, but a very fair and honest rebuttal to that is, but with Kawhi Leonard. So with Kawhi this season, everything changes for them. They have a 120 offensive rating with him on the floor. For comparison's sake, the Nuggets have a 124 with Yoke. So like, it shortens dramatically from where without him, the Clippers have a 110.9 offensive rating. They're 10 points better defensively with him on the floor. He doesn't make as much of a difference defensively. He was great defensively versus the Warriors today, versus the Warriors today. But in general, Kawhi's not quite the guy that he was. They have a plus 12.4 net rating this season with Kawhi on the floor. That's better than Yoke. So
that's a big deal. Like, he is a guy that they like, because they basically formulated a functional team before Kawhi even got there. And then he was able to add in what he does, which isn't really like uplifting to the rest of the team, but it's additive in terms of, all right, you've already got a functional pick and roll offense. You've got a guy in Zubac who, like, folks, I'm not kidding when I say that Zubac has a very capable all NBA case this year. Like, it was between him and Harden for me, and I decided to go with Harden. But like, he has also been very good, probably better than Norman Powell, who they were lobbying for an all-star appearance over Zubac. So like they have a really good basketball team. Yeah. And there's a lot of folks that I think were rooting for this matchup, despite because the alternative was the T-Wolves. And I get that, but I had somebody in my mentions, a Clippers fan, assuredly, saying, be careful what you wish for, because this team is really good and Denver's going to have their work cut out for them.
I think they are. I absolutely think that they're really good. I'm not sitting here saying that the Clippers are they can win this series. Ryan, and we have Clippers fans in the comments. That's so awesome.
Yes.
That's great. There's like 7 of you here. All 7 of you made it.
God, okay.
That's amazing. I'll cop it. That's an overused joke and very lame. Because I actually I want good things for Clippers fans, because I hate the fact that they have to be like the little brother to the Lakers. That sucks. So I want good things for them. But also things have not exactly gone well in the history of that franchise. I've been covering the league a while, and it's not been awesome. The Los Angeles Clippers this season versus top 10 offenses are 11-14 with the 20th best offense and the 6th best defense. Now, again, Kawhi Leonard. So like that's going to be the question here. Is like a lot of this just comes down to, can Kawhi stay healthy for an actual playoff series? Looks awesome. Can he stay healthy for an actual playoff series? Can he make all the difference in the world in this matchup? Because like, hey, I think the early season matchups don't really represent where either of these teams are. The Clippers are so much better than they were to start the season, even though Norman Powell was on such like an incredible tear to start. And the Nuggets are much better because like they were just like a wreck those first 2 weeks. They were just such a mess when the Nuggets played them. And like I'll just like I would not be surprised at all if the Clippers won the series. Would you?
No, of course not. Like here's the thing. You mentioned in the FanDuel odds section that the Nuggets were a big favorite. They're not. Like it's actually not that much. That Nuggets team is like minus 140 to win the series, and the Clippers are like plus 122 or something of that nature. And that's factoring in the fact that the Nuggets have an extra home game. So I think if Vegas had their opinion, they'd probably make this about a pick'em. And that's, I think, pretty representative of where these teams are at. The Clippers have a higher net rating than the Nuggets do. They play better on the details in some ways than the Nuggets do. And Denver's just kind of coming around to who they are. So I'm going to pick the Nuggets in this series. I haven't decided on how many games, but this is going to be a tight one. And I have no doubts that Denver's going to have to work through a lot in this series just to kind of get through to the second round. And that's a pretty scary place to be.
We'll have more on it this week, including our official picks. You can check it out all throughout the week. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Josh Kroenke's going to speak to the media. We'll have a show for you tomorrow based off of his comments on, gestures broadly. So we'll have a show up based off of that tomorrow. I won't be able to make it, but Ryan will be there. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Have yourselves a great week, everybody. Enjoy the lead to the playoffs. We'll talk to you again next time on Locked On Nuggets. Playoffs.
Talk about playoffs.